Today we're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes I see fresh graduates making, mistakes that I made myself that almost cost me a job. Coming right up. What is going on, everyone? It's Yasser back with another video, and today I got so many questions about the same topic. Yasser, I've graduated, I haven't found a job. How did you find a job? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing everything right. Why don't I have a job? So we'll get right into all of that. Before we do, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and here we go. With all the questions coming in from you guys, I'm definitely seeing a pattern with your job searching process because of which you're not able to find a job. So in this video, it's going to be a longer video. I'm going to give you the cold hard truth. Some of it might be unpleasant, but you're gonna have to hear it if you want to eventually find a job. So here we go. The biggest problem I see is assuming that the hiring managers or the company you're applying for somehow owe you something. Just because you've applied to their job posting, all of a sudden they have to cater to your needs and make sure you feel comfortable and you find the job because you were nice enough to give them a resume. Guess what? They've got like 500 more of those resumes and more coming in every single day. So unfortunately, none of us applying are any special snowflake. We're all going through the same process, so we have to make sure we can do everything from our side to make sure we have the most chances of getting our jobs. And I feel like a lot of us think that we've done everything, but really we haven't, and I'll talk about more of those things now. So before we move forward, just understand this. Yes, it's not a fair world. You might have other people who might get ahead of you even though you have more qualifications. That's just how life works. Accept it, deal with the system, and then apply regardless. Be persistent, eventually it'll work out. Now, by far, the biggest mistake I see is fresh graduates applying with a resume they think is good. If you think your resume is good because you made it and you spent 15 minutes on it, it's probably not that great. Unless you've consulted an expert, someone who's been a hiring manager, someone who's a recruiter, someone who's a career advisor, I would not recommend applying because you'd be wasting your time. You don't know what's good on your resume, what's not, what could be changed, what could be optimized. Always get a second, third, fourth opinion about your resume from people in good standing, from people who know what a good resume should look like, and only then apply. And to give you an example, I had a 4-page resume when I graduated and I was applying for jobs, and I thought it was the best thing ever. It had all of my accomplishments, it had everything in detail, but what it really was, a big chunk of paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Essentially, I was sending a whole book to the employer, and no one was going to take the time to read 4 pages when they can just press the next button on their software and skip to the next resume. No matter how good you think your resume is, just assume it's not good enough until someone who's an expert tells you it is. I've got a couple of videos on resumes that you can check out as well to make sure your resume is properly fit for the job you're applying to. And that's the other big mistake. People apply with the same resume to every single job. Okay, listen, say a job requires 3 things, okay? You have to be team working, you have to be motivated, and you have to have some knowledge of numbers. Maybe those are the requirements, okay? And on your resume, you have experience in customer service, you have experience volunteering at an orphanage, things that have nothing to do with the actual job, but you're including that in your resume anyway. So what you're going to do is you're going to apply to 100 places where maybe 40 or 50% of what's on your resume might be relevant, instead of making one resume that's 100% relevant to one job. Think about it. If the employer opens the resume and the first thing they see are the exact things that they're looking for on the job description, then they know you're going to be a good fit. They'll move you forward and hopefully you'll get a call for an interview. If you have a couple of things and the employer has to search for how you might be relevant in their role, how maybe your experience in volunteering and in student clubs might be relevant, they're not going to take that time to spell it out for themselves. You have to do that for them. And if you have irrelevant experience on your resume, they're just going to skip your resume and go on to the next one. An easy fix for this one is have a master resume with most of your education, some of your experience, but make sure you tailor make individual experience to the requirements of that specific job. Look at the job description, look at what they're looking for, and then reverse engineer your resume and then apply. It's going to take you much longer to do that, but guess what? That's what it takes to get a job. You have to put in the effort. You can't just sit on one resume and shoot it everywhere. It's not going to work. I have tried it. People I know have tried it. You've probably tried it. It's not working. Another mistake I see students making is not having the location of the employer you're applying to on your resume. So for example, if you're applying to a job in Vancouver and you are in Manitoba or you're in Winnipeg, they are not going to call you. They'll just assume whoever they're looking for, they can find in their own city. For example, if they're looking for an entry-level job, if they're looking for someone to fix computers, a basic help desk job, they're not going to find someone from across the country, come all the way from there on a bare minimum salary, an entry-level salary, and start a job when they can find someone in their own locale. So when you're applying to jobs in different city, tailor make your resume, either take your location out of it or write the location of the employer. They'll probably ask you on the phone screen anyway where you located, and you'll have to tell them, you know what, I'm planning to relocate. And I'll be 100% honest, they will always give preference to people who are already there, because they know if they hire you from a different city, you are going to have to travel. You're going to have to make arrangements to leave your old place, come and adjust to the new city, and they don't want to deal with all of that. They want someone then and there. So it might be a good idea for you to actually pick a city where you want to work and then relocate there and then start applying. If you're already planning to move to that city, you can even write it on your resume that, yeah, my location is Vancouver, and then you can apply, because your odds of being contacted by an employer go up quite a bit when they know you're in the same location as them. Another mistake I see a lot of students making is limiting the potential of where they can find a job, where they can't find a job. And I'll give you an example. I graduated with a Master's of Education degree, but I didn't really want to teach. I didn't really want anything to do with teaching at a high school or a preschool. I really enjoyed training in a corporate setting. That's what I really enjoyed, but it wasn't technically teaching. So I thought, if I have a Master's in Education degree, I can only teach. So I was looking for only teaching-based jobs that were kind of in business and kind of not, and I was really restricting where I could find a job. What I totally did forget is I had a lot of extracurricular activities I had done. I also had a business undergraduate degree that I could use to my credit. So I had all this other experience, things that I had done to now work somewhere else in another industry. So right now I work in human resources, because not only do I have the communication skills that I got from my education degree, but I also have that business background. So even if you don't have another degree, think of all the other experience you might have that might benefit you in a different role. Just because you graduated in an accounting degree doesn't mean you can only apply to accounting. You can apply to finance jobs, you can apply to payroll jobs, something maybe on the outskirts of what you've done. So don't limit where you're applying. On the other side, don't expect too much from your first job, especially if you're starting an entry-level job, you've just graduated, you're looking for a job. Don't expect them to pay you a lot more than what they're offering, right? So if they've got an opening level salary, go online, search what the average salary is for that position, and if they're paying you fine, don't really shoot for the money, because they'll know you don't really know what the industry standards are. You don't really have much bargaining power because you don't have any experience anyway. You just graduated, and if they don't hire you, they'll find someone else they can pay the same amount of money, and they'll get the job and you won't. There are exceptions. There are some firms that hire really exceptional students with really high GPAs who've passed like 4 or 5 stages of interviews. They've given their tests. Those normally pay a lot higher as well, because they have such specific barriers and such specific requirements. For those, of course, I understand you're shooting for the stars. That's awesome. Keep going. But if you're looking for a job which you know doesn't pay all that well, but it is a good step in your career, always prioritize learning a skill and gaining experience over the amount of money you'll make in your first job. So for example, when I started out, didn't have any experience in Canada at all. I started a job, I began learning all the skills, all the experience. No matter how many books you've read, experience will trump all of that. What you learn on your first day, first week, first month will trump every book you've ever read on that subject. So make sure you prioritize the job, the experience, the skills you learn over the money you get paid, and apply to more such jobs. Now listen, I 100% understand you're looking for a job, you graduated, you're nervous, you're not going to find a career, and you find the first place that offers you a job and you jump right on it and you get it. Don't settle, especially when you've put in so much effort into passing your 2-year, 4-year degree, and then you take the first job that comes your way that might not pay well, might not even have any skills that you can learn, and has no progression in it. You don't really you're not really gaining anything from that. And I did the same thing as well. I was working at a hair salon before this. I loved the people there. They were generous enough to pay me money so I could come to Vancouver. But if I'm being realistic, I wasn't really learning anything in terms of my career. I learned the inside operations of the salon, but it had nothing to do with my career, what I wanted to do with it. So I did that for as long as I could, and then I moved on from that knowing that I need to get into an industry that I'm passionate about. So don't jump on the first opportunity you get. Always kind of weigh out your options. And if you know it's just not something you can enjoy on a daily basis, just don't even bother applying. Why would you apply to something you don't want to do in the future? And I know the answer to that is you're desperate, you're willing to do anything, but honestly, if you start working in that position anyway, a month or two into it, your heart's not going to be into it and you're just going to be dissatisfied as it is. And I know you need a little bit of money to keep going. Find yourself something to keep going, perhaps a part-time job or something, but make sure your focus is on finding the right job that can give you the skill, not the pay, but the skill and the experience you need and the progression that you might need in your career. Now to close off, I want to make a very important point about social media. You'd be surprised how often employers will look at your social media profile to see if you're a good fit. If you've been a student partying all the time, you're posting all of your drunk pictures everywhere, and you're not exactly using professional language on your social media, yes, even if they don't want to on purpose, subconsciously, the employers will have an opinion of you. That's just going to happen. That's human nature. So be very careful of the kinds of things you share on social media, the things that you make public, the kinds of pictures and videos you put up. And you really have to make sure if someone's Googling you or they find your Instagram and they happen to be an employer, that they have a good impression of you. So do as much as you can just to keep all your activities as private as you possibly can, especially if you're looking for a job. If you've got an Instagram account, make a private Instagram account and a professional Instagram account, or just have a private one. Make sure your life isn't open to everyone, especially if you're a complete party monster. Now, the last point worth mentioning is most people, when they're graduating, they think they can only apply two ways. Go into a shop and ask if they have a job, and number two, find an online posting and then apply there, and they kind of limit their options there. Now, this is a huge mistake that I made as well, just refreshing the job board and applying to every single job and hoping someone's gonna reply to your resume, okay? There is a huge potential, especially with social media, especially with places like LinkedIn, for you to make connections. And I know the moment I say that make connections network, it sounds really intimidating, but hear me out here, okay? This is something absolutely invaluable that I have learned over the years from my career mentors and from people I've talked to who are in the industry. This is how you properly network, and this is golden advice here, so just listen. Pick a job title that you want, not a manager in a company, not something really higher up like an exact title that you're looking for, maybe even the company where you want, okay? Then go on LinkedIn, search for someone working in that company or in that field who has that exact same title, that exact job that you want, okay? You find them, great, make a list of a few of them, shoot them a message saying, hey, listen, I love what you're doing, it's a career I'm really interested in, and I want to learn more about it. Can we grab a coffee? Can we have a Skype call? Can we talk about it for 5 minutes over the phone? Now, the purpose of this is not for you to ask them for a job. The purpose of it is for you to understand what it is they're doing, how it is they ended up in that situation, what requirements they needed to get into that job, and then you have a better understanding of the job itself. Maybe once they tell you more about the job, you decide, I don't even want to do this anymore. Now, if you contact 10 people, maybe 5 of them will reply and 2 of them might agree to it, but you still have 2 people who are already doing what you're doing, who have agreed to talk to you about it. And guess what? A lot of these people are very open because they know how hard it was for them to get that job, and they don't really have a lot of people reaching out to them on LinkedIn anyway, asking about their experience. Most of the time, they're junior level employees. They've just gotten that job. They've been working there for maybe a year or 2 years. So when someone reaches out to them and says, hey, I want to do what you're doing, it's inspiring where you're at, tell me how you did it, they'll oblige you most of the time. So once you go meet them, once you're on a phone call, you ask them all the questions you want to ask. Don't mention anything about wanting a job, anything like that. Your job is to get them to talk about themselves, their experience, and their job. And if you do a good enough job of listening and understanding, eventually they'll ask you, so what are you looking for? What kind of job are you looking for? Where are you now in your job search? What are your credentials? Because they've been talking pretty much the whole time you've been listening. Eventually, they'll want to ask you the same thing as well. And that's your opportunity to say, you know what, this is what I'm looking for. I'm really passionate in the career you're in, and I really wanted some inside industry experience from someone like yourself to share with me so that I can plan my career trajectory. So what did you accomplish with all this? You made a brand new connection. You knew someone in person, and in-person connections will always trump any online application you can send. You know this person on the team, on the inside personally. So say if something comes up later on, if someone's hiring within the team, they'll think, oh, you know what? This person came to me asking for this industry. This person was really interested in the job. We should probably tell him to apply. And the moment you apply, your resume goes right to the top, right in front of the hiring managers. Or maybe if you're lucky enough, they might be hiring for that position then and there, and they'll just tell you to apply. Or maybe they'll know someone who's applying in the industry and they'll just refer you to the right people. Guys, you do this enough times, you talk to enough people, you make enough connections, you will find a job. You will find people on the inside. You will be planting all these seeds and eventually you'll find a job. And I see almost no one doing this. It's absurd. We have an incredible tool like LinkedIn where you should reach out to employers, reach out to people and get an idea, make connections, and then find a job that way, but no one is doing it. So take this word of advice. It's really going to help you out. That's how I found my job. That's how a lot of people I know found their job, and it's really going to help you out as well. There you go, guys. That's all I had for you. All the tips I had in terms of maximizing your options of getting a job after university, minimizing all the mistakes you can make. I hope I answered most of the concerns you had. If you have any more concerns about not being able to find a job after your graduation and you fixed your resume and all of that, post that below in the comments. Let me know what struggles you're having and I'll be sure to answer that in a future video. And if you got any value out of this channel or all the videos I've been making, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out and makes me know that you're enjoying the content. So hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.